Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and you know that I'm active on a bunch of platforms in a bunch of different ways. You may have seen a course where I was interviewing the person who published the course. You may have gone on a office hours from Keep or Plus This or some other app and seen me hosting an office hours. Of course, you're listening to my podcast. You've seen my book, maybe the Plus This book. But what I've gone into a lot in the last couple of years is Twitter, and specifically ghostwriting for clients on Twitter. Twitter's interesting in that it's not as much of a visual medium as Facebook and Instagram. And a lot of people seem to be either drawn towards Facebook or IG or Twitter. There's not a whole lot of crossover. And part of why I decided to get better at Twitter was there's almost no Keep certified partners that are active on Twitter and can really be authoritative about here's how to use Twitter. And I'm always interested in getting good at what other people are not good at if I think I can monetize it. And here we are a few years after putting more attention towards Twitter. And I've grown a little bit, but I've really developed my skills as a ghostwriter. But I'm still even beginning on that. There's people who have huge agencies that do ghostwriting just on Twitter. We're talking today about how to grow your Twitter account and how to write threads that create those qualified leads to take through your sales process and generate reliable sales. And our guest today, who has done this for a lot of people, is Michael Greenberg. He is at Gent of Tech, Gent of Tech on Twitter, because of course you got to follow somebody who's talking about Twitter. Michael, welcome to Redbeard Radio.
Thanks, Brian. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because that big thread tweet that you shared where he said, yeah, you've built multiple accounts over 100K. My biggest success story right now is Dr. Philip Ovadia. When he started working with me, he had 1,400 followers. We just passed 27,000. And we did that in a bit over a year. It was like a year and 3 months. And he's a heart surgeon. So it's a very niche topic, right?
Yeah.
But we figured out between his podcast, his book, all of his content, we're just doing more and more. I'm like, okay, is 100K within, is it possible? Yes. And do we believe that we can take 100K followers and be offering our services all the way up to concierge heart medicine and monetize that? Absolutely. So I'm excited to learn more about how to go from the first 25K followers I got him. How do we go take someone up to 100,000 followers?
Yeah, you're playing on easy mode now. I think the first thing you've got to do is get him verified. That seems like a fairly easy move as a prominent medical professional. Get him in a few publications and then get him verified, because that was one of our biggest hacks. The difference between a verified account and a non-verified account in growth is night and day.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't talk about that a ton because most people don't have the 10, 20K to throw at the problem to buy it, or don't really have the story and experience that they need to get verified. But if you can get verified, the follow rate just goes through the roof.
Interesting. So he's been on all kinds of media, but it needs to be like a newspaper or a magazine or what specifically?
Yeah, so Twitter actually, if you go to their verification guidelines, will list out the platforms that they consider good sources.
Okay.
The other easy hacks are if you belong in a newsroom ever, or if you get a byline written in a major publication.
Mm-hmm.
Those will also allow you to get verified. And then sort of the secret roundabout way that I've gone about it for some of my clients is just knowing somebody at Twitter who can push it to the right people and elevate the case past the automated support. And that gets you verified much, much faster.
That sounds like how it works with all these apps, is that knowing the right people is really useful.
Hugely, hugely useful. And that's one of the other big things that we do to grow accounts is we get them in touch with the right people who have big accounts in similar niches early. Because that means that when we send that person a thread that we really want to go viral, they're going to like it, they're going to retweet it, they're going to comment, they're going to read it. And that's the difference between a thread falling flat or a thread really hitting that next level of growth.
Well, so you haven't mentioned quality of writing yet. When you think about how you're getting clients to grow to 100,000 followers, how much is the quality of the writing matter as compared to the who is sharing it being verified, that sort of thing?
So quality of writing matters a ton. And this is like This is where I spend a lot of my day in the past month or two is vetting ghostwriters because
Mm-hmm.
it's so hard to find one who can write really well.
Mm-hmm.
Quality of content is going to determine how viral the thread gets. And the way I sort of think about things is engagement in those sort of tight relationships increase your initial base of reach. But if the thread isn't good, that reach is not going to turn into shares. And if it doesn't turn into shares, it's not going to grow.
Mm-hmm. What kind of content really shares well? Some people say, oh, well, it should be a rags to riches story. Other folks say, well, you want to share your client wins. Other folks say, teach someone how to do what you already know. Other folks say, use lots of pictures and GIFs. Is there any universal rule for what's working on Twitter right now?
No, you've got to match it to the account.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely match it to the account. So, for one guy that I work with who's now my boss, we found one like type of story that we called a bootstrap giant, and we would publish one of those every single week. And it took between 10 and 20 hours to write every thread. They were deeply well researched. They were stories of bootstrappers building these massive 100 million, 200 million, $1 billion businesses. And those threads grew the account very quickly and attracted a large audience. We could get 5, 10, 15,000 followers in one thread.
That's incredible. Were you already verified when you got those kind of numbers?
Oh, yeah. So I started with that account. I became like the primary manager or the lead on that account when it was at about 20,000 followers, and we had just gotten it verified.
What role does running Twitter ads play in growing an account that size?
None. So that's purely organic. I've tested Twitter ads a number of times. I think Twitter ads can get you off the ground pretty effectively, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
often use them if I want to like buy engagement on a pinned tweet that I want to look better than it performed
Mm-hmm.
because it's really good for conversion or for lead gen, something like that.
Yep.
But in general, I haven't found Twitter ads to be super effective for account growth. They are much more effective for lead gen. I know a few guys doing well with them on lead gen. I
Mm-hmm.
personally haven't moved into that space yet, but it seems like a pretty straightforward system.
What I'm doing is I put a lot of ad money, and not even a lot, but a small amount of ad money, but over a significant period of time, towards one of Dr. Avadia's videos, and it's just a tweet that talking about his book, and it has a book promo video there, and we by running ad money towards there, we got to over 600,000 views of this video. It's a little 1.5 minute promoting metabolic health and saying, "Hey, go get this book." And we can't track into who exactly is buying on Amazon. We can track how many link clicks there are on the link going to Amazon. And then we can sort of guess from there as we look at our sales and how the sales relate to the ad money that we're spending. So we're pretty sure we're positive ROI, but it's hard to track. What I know though is that when people see that video pop up, it's like, oh, over 600,000 people watch this. That feels some social proof. And I like that. I'm like, okay. And then I also, because we knew the numbers, I could say to Phil, okay, any video we want to get to 1 million views, it's going to cost you X amount of money to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And one thing I'd add to that is just reposting, and tweeting that video out fresh using the Twitter Media Studio. Because what that's going to do is if you tweet from the Media Studio, you're able to use the same piece of content again and you save all those views even on a fresh post.
Fascinating. See, folks, Redwood Radio is really just me asking people things, and then you get to be along for the ride as I go learn more about these tools. Because that's great. That's very interesting. Twitter made the ad change recently where you doesn't appear you can any longer just advertise existing tweets. They changed this a month or two ago or 3 months ago, where it used to be you could just grab a thing you already had out there and then keep all your views. But now it's not obvious they're letting you do that in the same way. And it's this. I'm not a fan
Oh,
of their change.
see, I haven't used Twitter ads in, it looks like, about 45 days. Um,
Whenever you next go in there, you'll notice there's a change where it does not let you just grab one of your most recent tweets in the same way that it used to.
Oh no, I spent them on beginning of this month,
Oh yeah,
Friday,
wonder.
August 5th, and I could still do it then.
I wonder if they rolled out a new version of the software only to some accounts.
That makes sense. I've got a bunch of notifications here also of like how they're rebuilding Ads Manager.
Uh,
And so it's very possible that like this is a change that has not been rolled out to my account yet because
that's
they're
funny.
big on testing things in cohorts.
Well, let's hope that my unhappiness makes them not change it.
Yeah,
So,
it'll all come down to how much money you spend on Twitter. So just amp it up.
well, my guess was that probably the more money you're spending on Twitter, probably that increases how much they want to display your ads organically or your content organically. And what I found was for every 2 views I paid for, I got 1 view organically without paying for it. And that was scale invariant. So
Yeah,
if I bought 1 million views, I would get a half a million views for free, is what it appeared, at least for this one account at this one time period. Who knows how true that would be if you tried it again, or even I tried it again with the same place.
I think that rings pretty true just because Twitter, as people engage with it, will share it across more groups.
Hmm.
So you're essentially buying the engagement that keeps it going.
Well, tell me this. What do you think, Michael, about engagement in terms of having people responding to whatever kinds of comments, quote tweets, all that are you getting? uh, it's pretty common practice to have a lot of people. We hire VAs that are inexpensive to go automate, quote unquote, some of the social media stuff. But at some point, having well trained humans who really understand a brand well and can be responding in real time is a worthwhile thing. What are you finding to get a company to 100,000 followers? How much does that engagement matter?
Oh, tons. I mean, if you don't have engagement, you might as well just give up.
Well, I mean, from the company to the people that are commenting, like
Oh,
responding.
okay.
Versus
Yeah,
some
yeah,
folks
yeah.
get big by never responding or by almost never responding, right?
I think this goes back to the question about quality of content.
Hmm.
If your content's really good, you don't need to engage, or you need to engage minimally. The money in Twitter is in the DMs.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you meet leads. That's where a lot of the business gets done. But I think if your content is bad, you might as well give up because no amount of engagement is ever going to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
If your content is good, then engagement is fuel on the fire.
Well, tell me this: how much time for one of these companies you're getting to 100K? How much time do you have, or do you spend of the founder or the owner or the head of marketing themselves responding to things versus training someone else to do it?
That depends on the type of content.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I'll have somebody skilled on hand if it's going to be like higher level questions.
Yeah.
If it's just having somebody say thanks to everyone, then I'll have a growth assistant do it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are you finding about? I know your answer. Your answer is going to be it depends on the individual client. What are you finding about how important it is to have video versus not having any video content?
I don't
There's,
think video matters.
you don't think it matters? Okay. Uh,
Um, like video and images definitely will increase engagement because of the way Twitter measures engagement. But I mean, we grew an account with almost no photos and very little video. And that was a year ago now.
hmm.
And so I think it's absolutely doable. It might be playing a little bit more on hard mode, but that's not the end of the world. Sometimes hard is better.
So for someone who wants to grow their account, let's say they're in the low thousands right now, what should they focus on? Should it be writing those killer threads, or should it be on just volume of content, or having really high quality graphics and video, or what? How does someone know where to start?
Yeah, I think starting with quality content is the way to go. And one thing that like I personally am still dealing with is finding the perfect fit of content for my audience. And
Hmm.
I think that should be your first priority.
How do you
Like,
do that?
well, you tweet a bunch of stuff and you see what sticks. but you got to do the stuff that interests you.
Hmm.
And I've got like a little scorecard that I use for audience content fit, as I call it. That's a play on product market fit for those of you who didn't catch the reference.
I love it.
And that's what I use to sort of figure it out. I'm looking for an audience that can buy, that I can identify, that's fairly highly niched, and that I have some sort of strong connection with for myself or for my client, where they have a connection with that audience.
Hmm. In Dr. Avadia's case, it's basically cheating because he's a practicing heart surgeon. His book is called Stay Off My Operating Table, and he's educating people about metabolic health so they can be healthier, so they can stay off his operating table. And then
Yeah,
what we're selling is services to help you stay healthy so you don't end up using him as your literal heart surgeon. So it's very connected, and he's very knowledgeable in this very specific area. When you hear this guy's like, he's done over 3,000 heart surgeries, you think, well, yeah, he probably knows something. It feels very credible because it is.
but based on what you've told me about him, it sounds like maybe there's another level of niche to that. Maybe it's the business owners or the executives who are interested because they've already made the connection that your health is related to your income.
What
It's
we're
related
doing,
to your performance.
yes, we have more content based on that we're putting out on LinkedIn. And then on Twitter, we're doing a more general discussion towards everybody. And we include some content that's around the business side, but we're more talking to everybody who wants to not have a heart attack. And then we have
Why?
we perceive that the people who are on LinkedIn are more likely to be those business owners of high seven-figure companies. That would be the kind of people that would hire us for Phil's expertise throughout their business. Do you think that's an outdated assumption that the serious business people are more on LinkedIn and that Twitter has less of those people, or they're harder to find?
Yeah, I think it depends on industry, but I think you've got it in reverse. I know,
Fascinating.
like, for us, most of our target market, they might be on LinkedIn, they might be posting there, but they don't care about it.
Interesting.
And they're not consuming content on that platform, most importantly.
Well, that's fascinating. As I type notes here to send to my client about, here's what Michael Greenberg told me. Let's discuss this.
Yeah, like we repost our Twitter content to LinkedIn, it gets engagement, but I get less than 5 leads a month from LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And part of that might be not creating enough channel specific content.
Hmm.
But I think the bigger reason is that the quality of leads on LinkedIn is not as strong for many of our targets.
Okay, Michael, you've given me a bunch to think about how to use Twitter better in my pursuit of that 100,000 follower count. And dear listeners, you got to hear what getting coached by Michael sounds like. Michael, for folks who want that experience for themselves, where can they find you?
Yeah, just DM me on Twitter. I'm not taking any new coaching business until next quarter because honestly, I'm kind of busy and I want to turn it into like a real offering instead of the impromptu kind of BS, me just spitting knowledge at someone when they ask questions that it is right now.
Hmm.
But I normally work with like 4 or 5 clients at a time, and it's around either media or B2B growth or running a business. We didn't get to talk about it, but I ran a podcasting agency for about 7 years and then
Yeah.
sold it. Um, so yeah, that's me.
That's wonderful. Okay, it's Gent of Tech on Twitter, GENT of Tech. Michael, thanks for being on Redbeard Radio.
Awesome.